CDH Films presents an animated storybook retold with building blocks, The Diary of Luke Castellan, a Percy Jackson prequel by Rick Riordan. It was the dawn of a new century, a dawn of a new millennia, a dawn of a new age of heroes. More specifically, a new age of demigod heroes. Like for instance, Luke Castellan, son of Hermes, and Thalia Grace, daughter of Zeus. It was hard to believe it had been 5 long years since Luke had ran away from home. Luke barely remembered what it was like to sleep in a real bed. Luke had only been 9 at the beginning. This year, he would turn 14. Just recently, he had escaped a random dragon attack. He probably wouldn't have made it out alive if Thalia hadn't coincidentally showed up. She had only been there because she was following her own animal guide of some sort. During the fight, Luke had gotten his sword melted away by the dragon's fire, and then the dragon gave him a nasty scar on his face. Now, the two of them had been sticking by each other's side ever since. Thalia carried a spear, and now Luke had to settle for a stolen golf club. Today, they were following the same animal that brought them together, an immortal goat from Greek mythology called Amalthea. Yes, the Amalthea who nursed baby Zeus. Thalia explained that the goat only appeared when something good was about to happen. She only knew that because she mentioned how the goat led her to Luke. For all he knew, their meeting was kind of random. He was just doing what he could to survive day to day like any demigod would. So now, they were following the goat as it led them to a large roundabout somewhere in Richmond, Virginia. The kids hid behind a large monument as they watched the goat pop its way over to a large house across the street. "I think she wants us to go in there," Thalia said. She ran up to the house without even waiting for Luke. Reluctantly, Luke caught up to her. By the time they reached the porch, the goat vanished out of thin air. When Thalia tried the knob, it was predictably locked. "Can you do your thing?" she asked Luke. His thing was rather difficult to explain. Supposedly, being a son of Hermes, he had the ability to unlock locks by touching them or even just sensing for the lock parts. Luke honestly hated it just as much as he hated his dad. He touched the knob, closed his eyes, concentrated, and seconds later, there was a clicking sound and he opened the door. The inside of the house didn't look any better than the outside. In fact, the place looked like it had been attacked. In the ballroom-style entrance hall, some pieces of furniture were thrown all over the place. Luke couldn't decide if it had been cut apart with a chainsaw or torn up by a wild dog. Even a crystal chandelier had fallen from the ceiling. In a few spots, they could see dried-up red marks on the floor, and they could just hope it was just some spilled wine or maybe ketchup. They were about to change their minds and leave, but then, slam! The door swung itself shut and somehow locked itself. Luke tried his thing again, but there was no use. He stood there concentrating for at least 5 minutes and got nothing. Thalia tried the windows, but the black curtains grabbed her and tried to wrap around her. Luke helped her break free by smacking at the curtains with his golf club. They looked down the 2 hallways on either side of them. "Hello?" a voice said from upstairs. "Somebody there? Do you need help?" Suddenly, what looked like a pair of red flashing lights blinked into existence. "Over here, follow me," the same voice said, but this time the voice seemed to come from the dark hall where the red lights were blinking. "Follow me, this way," the voice called. This time it came from the right. It seemed to come from either hallway. How could the same voice come from 2 opposite directions? "Up here, follow me," the voice called from upstairs again. Thalia and Luke looked at each other and quickly made one silent agreement. Upstairs. They were not going to wait for those red lights to come after them, and they did not dare to look back. They heard what sounded like a clack-clack sound from behind them, but they didn't think too much about it. They ran down the hall, around a corner, and from the last door on the left they heard, "In here, follow me." They did as suggested and slammed the door behind them. Just before they turned around, they heard the same voice from before, only this time, it was behind them. "Excuse me." They turned around and saw a man. a rather fragile-looking elderly man, with Einstein-looking hair and a sort of sad expression. He was dressed in a green coat that seemed to be made of reptile skin, and he held a green book in one arm. His mouth started to open as if he were about to speak, but when he did, the voice didn't come directly from him. It came from their left. "Hello. I'd like to apologize for the trouble I've caused you." Luke turned to his left, and his heart almost stopped. On the left side of the room, in a large zoo-style cage, was the weirdest and most disturbing-looking animal Luke may have ever seen. How to describe it? It looked like a mix between a hyena and a horse. Instinct told Luke that this was the creature that was watching them in the dark hallway downstairs, because it had the same glowing red eyes. Its mouth looked disturbingly human. Or at least, the lips did. Its teeth, well, they didn't exactly look like teeth. Both the top and bottom of its mouth were what looked like two solid horseshoe-shaped plates of bone. When it snapped its mouth, it made that same clack-clack sound they heard earlier back downstairs. They wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. They could hear growling outside the door, and the only window in the room had those same creepy black curtains on it. Luke looked back at the man and tried to sound intimidating. "Who are you? And what's that thing in the cage?" he asked. The man opened his mouth again, and again, his voice came from the left. "My name is Halcyon Green, and I am a son of Apollo." With a start, they realized it wasn't the man talking. Like some disturbing reversed ventriloquist act, the voice came from the monster. "And I am terribly sorry," the voice continued, "but I'm afraid it is you who are in the cage. You've been lured here to die." Good news? The man didn't give any sign he was going to free the monster. Bad news? They left Thalia's spear behind downstairs, which left them with just the golf club. Luke pointed it at the man and said, You'd better start making sense. What do you want with us? And how is that thing doing that?" "I understand your confusion," the monster said in the man's voice. "The creature you see here is what they call the Lucrota. It is created by the gods and designed to be completely unstoppable. It also has the unique ability to imitate voices as its way to lure its prey. But for its reason for being here, it is used to speak on my behalf." "Wait, your behalf? You mean it's saying what you want to say?" Luke asked the man. "It's speaking with your voice?" "Such is my curse," the monster replied. "Wait, did you say you're a son of Apollo? As in the Apollo?" Thalia asked. "You're a demigod? But you're so
"Old?" the monster asked. "Yes, I am."
The old man looked at his palms, as if he couldn't believe they were his. Luke totally understood Thalia's surprise. They had run into other demigods a few times before, some friendly, some not so much, but all of them had been kids like them. They knew that a life for a demigod was so dangerous, being sniffed out by monsters most of the time. They figured it was unlikely demigods could ever survive long enough to reach adulthood. But Halcyon Green looked around 60 at least. "How long have you been in here?" Thalia asked him.
"I have lost track," the monster answered for him. "Decades, perhaps. I was not much older than you when I received my punishment. Because my father is the god of oracles, I was born with a gift of seeing the future. I was warned never to share what I saw, or it would have angered the gods. But many years ago, I just had to act. I saw a little girl who was destined to die. Luckily, my powers helped me enough to find her, and I successfully saved her. She is safe now wherever she may be, but all that was many years ago. Either way, I'll never see her again. I didn't even know her name. And so now, I am punished by being locked up in this house where I can never share my secrets or alter anyone else's destiny again. To tease me, Apollo gave me nothing else to wear but this coat, made from the mighty python's skin to remind me I am not an oracle. Apollo also took my voice away and linked the Lucrota to my thoughts so they can speak for me. They use me as bait to lure demigods here as Apollo's way to remind me my voice will only lead to death.
A coppery taste sat in Luke's mouth. He knew the gods could be cruel. Luke's own dad ignored him for 14 whole years. But Apollo's idea of a punishment for Hal? This was just evil.
No, Dahlia said. This isn't right. You did a good thing. You saved a life when no one else did. You should be rewarded, not punished.
Yeah, Luke said. You should fight back. Break out. We can help you. Oh, by the way, I'm Luke, and this is Dahlia. She's my friend.
Call me Hal, the monster said in Hal's voice. And I'm very sorry, but you are not the first ones to ever come here, or the first with the confidence to escape. Anything you can think of, many others before you have tried with no success. All the windows are blocked by cursed curtains that will strangle anyone who touches them. If the monsters don't kill you, the curtains will. The doors are heavily enchanted. They'll let you in, but not out. And the Lucrota are invincible. They cannot be hurt by any metal known to God or man. See for yourself.
Hal took out a dagger from his coat, approached the cage, and jabbed at the monster's head. The dagger didn't break, but there wasn't a single scratch, as if the monster was made of rock.
So that's it? Dahlia asked. You just gave up? You just sit here and let the monsters kill everyone who comes in here?
I am sorry, my dear, the monster said, but I have little choice. I remain trapped here. If I don't cooperate, the monsters let me starve. The monsters could have killed you downstairs, but they use me to lure you upstairs and keep me company. It eases my loneliness. But that cage is designed to automatically open when the sun sets. When that happens, the Lucrota will feast on your flesh. After you are gone, I'll settle for whatever rations you may be carrying.
You're as bad as the monsters, Luke said angrily. He didn't care if he may have hurt the old man's feelings.
You have every right to hate me, the monster said, but I cannot save you. By sunset, you will die. There is no escape.
It was a little after 2 p.m. At best, the sun would go down around 6 or 7. They weren't sure. Luke only just noticed how the whole room, ignoring the cage, was set up like a studio apartment. Looking around counterclockwise, there was a dishwasher, a sink, and an oven. 2 doors, probably a closet and a bathroom. A bookshelf, a computer desk, a chair, a window with another set of dark curtains, and the bed. Then Luke noticed in one corner of the cage was a square panel which seemed to lead to another room. The panel opened, and 2 more Lucrota walked in through it. Luke wondered how they could eat with such weird teeth. Then, as if to answer his question, one of the monsters grabbed some old armor laying in the cage with its mouth. It bit down so hard, it made a horseshoe-shaped dent in the armor, so Luke could only guess they would have no trouble chewing on their skulls.
Hal, can't you tell him to go away, please? Dahlia asked.
But then we won't be able to talk, the first monster said. Besides, whatever strategy you can think of, the others have already tried, said the second monster. There is no point in private talks, said the third.
But can they even really understand us? Dahlia asked. I mean, when they speak for you, do they sprout out whatever you want to say, when you want to say it? Or do they even understand the words?
One of the monsters said, with a perfect imitation of Thalia's voice. It was like hearing the perfect audio recording being played back. It was at that moment Luke finally understood just exactly how dangerous the Lucrota was. If he had heard a voice like that, like, say, for example, calling for help around a corner, maybe in the dark, without ever hearing about the monster, he probably would have followed that voice and probably wouldn't come back. Luke shook the thought out of his head.